welcome back to another episode of BKL Nightly. I am your host, Rachel Liebert, here for the evening to bring you all you need to know ahead of this Week 4 matchup against the Saints. The 0-3 Saints will be coming to Highmark Stadium to take on the, of course, 3-0 Bills. So we've got all the things you need to know ahead of this game. So we're going to start, as we always do when I'm in the seat here, we always start with our injuries. So we've got a little bit of an update today on Maxwell Hairston, rookie DB, who's been injured since July 29th, I believe. End of July, training camp, he went down with that LCL sprain. You can see right there in the video, he still has a brace on that right knee. Pretty big, pretty intense brace, so not really indicative of, you know, maybe him coming back off of IR next week. He is eligible to return though off of IR next week, hitting that 4-week mark. But today Sean McDermott said he's, you know, progressing in the right direction, but they are still taking it day by day, of course. I mean, with this Saints game, I don't think the Bills are too worried about their secondary, although it has kind of been a struggle this season. I don't think, you know, Hairston not being there is at the top of the concern. And then just looking ahead to a few weeks, I mean, the Bills' strength of schedule seems to be one that at least the NFL world thinks is pretty easy. I mean, coming up, there are several games that probably won't be too much of a challenge. But as of now, Hairston will keep you updated on what his status is. But it is looking like, you know, he was there today at practice, was rehabbing quite a bit, and he looked good. He looked to be moving pretty well. So we'll keep you updated, of course, as we get updates over here. All right, we got a few more injuries. Pretty short injury report today, though, which is good, all things considered. I mean, we've seen pretty lengthy injury reports versus week 1 and week 2. Week 3 last week was a little bit shorter, but today Ed Oliver did not practice again today after his ankle was stepped on 2 weeks ago now. So not a great sign, and we don't really know even the extent of the injury. We just know that his ankle was stepped on at practice, and he has not played since then. Also, part of the defense, Matt Milano, again, did not practice. Still do not have a definite answer as to what happened to Matt Milano. We know it's pectoral injury, but we don't know the severity of it. Sean McDermott has kind of leaned towards both sides of the spectrum of it being, you know, this is something we're going week by week. We could see him at practice, you know, tomorrow, and then that practice comes and then Matt Milano isn't out there, and he's not ruling out, you know, a lengthy injury and a recovery for him. So we're not really sure on where Matt Milano is, but he did not practice today. So no update on this weekend if their status will change, of course, for that game. It's still a few days away, but we'll keep you updated with that. Spencer Brown also did not practice today. He's out with a calf injury. He said that he sustained against Miami on Thursday, but he seemed to be in good spirits, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. And then AJ Epinesa also added to this injury report with a pectoral injury. He was limited today, though, so better than not practicing at all. All right, so we got to look back on this Miami game just a bit. It was a 10-point win for the Bills, so not a, you know, it was a comfortable win, not a super comfortable win, maybe borderline where you would say comfortable just about ends with that 10 points there, especially against a Miami team that everybody kind of expected the Bills to come in and dominate. And there were times where Miami was driving downfield and looked like, I mean, they do have solid offense that the Bills did have time stopping, or had trouble stopping at times. But like I said, we'll call it a comfortable win for now. We'll see if we go back on that statement. But across the NFL, there were some not comfortable wins, I'll tell you that. I'm sure everybody is aware of the slate of 1 o'clock games that happened on Sunday, and then even just throughout the night. Field goals seem to be the hot topic of conversation. The Eagles blocked 2 field goals. They blocked the Rams' game winner, what would have been their game winner. And then Jordan Davis, big man touchdown, ran it all the way back just to cement that win for the Eagles. The Browns, you know, I'm a Cleveland girl. I am from Northeast Ohio, so it was a good day for Cleveland fans on top of all of the Guardian stuff going on. But Browns blocked what would have been the go-ahead score for Green Bay, and then they went down, and the Browns went down and scored a game-winning, kind of walked it off there. So that was a good day to be a Cleveland fan. And then the Jets blocked a field goal, ran it back for a touchdown. They did end up losing in Jets fashion. But a lot of blocked field goals, a lot of walk-off field goals is why I believe there were 4, you know, as time expired. So pretty fun weekend to be an NFL fan and watch all this happen. And today, Thad Brown was in Orchard Park and kind of asked some of these Bills players what they thought of the field goals and just the madness that ensued on Sunday.
all of them kind of looked a little bit different. It wasn't like something schematically, I don't think, like across the league, but I mean, there's not many times you get 4 or 5 right there in one, what was that, 20 minutes? It felt like
it's an underrated play. Like it doesn't get a lot of like pub, but like when it comes up, it really comes up big. So I mean, like it's making us emphasize even more, like, yo, we can steal one of these because it's happening more.
There's always an urgency when you see what happens around the league. So, guys are big and strong and powerful, and coaches come up with great schemes to be able to try to affect the kicker on that play. So we got to be able to understand what the trends are and react accordingly.
That's what you do, regardless of offense, defense, special teams. When you see something like that, you're always wanting to get back in and look at the tape and see how you can learn from it.
So maybe we'll see a Bills blocked field goal against the Saints. I think it's probable. The Saints are a struggling team, possibly might be the right way to describe it. They come off a win, or a loss on the road in Seattle. I believe they gave up 44 points to Seattle, and now they got to come on the road across the country to Buffalo, and it's not going to be easy to perform well at Highmark Stadium, especially, coming in 0-3. All right, well, also in that Miami game, the Bills makes them 3-0, and a part of this win, a highlight moment, at least for me to watch, was, of course, rookie Jackson Haas scored his first NFL touchdown on a little no-look shovel pass from Josh Allen. Really just the most Josh Allen-esque play you could put together. I mean, looked like he might take it himself. Jackson Haas is kind of there. At first, Haas is in motion. He kind of slips a little bit. Then he runs back. Then he makes an insane block. He's known for being this blocking tight end. And then he's just there for the touchdown, his first NFL touchdown. So today, Thad Brown, as I said, was in Orchard Park and caught up with Haas and that, career moment and some of his teammates. And yeah, here's what they had to say.
5th-round rookie tight end Jackson Haas has been wildly impressive through 3 games, both as a blocker and as a receiver. Even scored a touchdown last week against the Dolphins. But Josh Allen, being Josh Allen, did point out on Wednesday the one area Haas apparently is yet to master: celebrations.
A terrible spike, first of all. We judge our spikes in our offensive room, and the way that it's judged, if it leaves the screen on the top, it's a great spike. I don't think his got a foot off the ground and just kind of rolled forward.
And I just kind of blacked out, like when I spiked it. Like I didn't really even remember to like keep the ball or anything. Yeah, it was nuts. Coolest feeling ever, though.
Haas was drafted as a blocker first, and on Wednesday received from a teammate the highest praise in that area. There's a logical reason why he's so good at it.
I think it's really fun. It's the one time that you get to battle it out with another dude. And at my position, most of the time, he's like 20, 30 pounds heavier than you, so it's kind of a fun little challenge. He is, without a doubt, the best blocking tight end I've ever seen. His ability to win one-on-one blocks on the edge, be in combination on outside zone, backside of zone plays is truly the best I've ever seen. I feel really good, but I'm also just kind of remembering that it's like a week-by-week thing. It's a new challenge every week, so it's fun to celebrate the successes with the team and personal successes from the games, but once Monday hits, kind of on to the next thing. He works his tail off. Really cares. Like, he's a great teammate, and he's going to play forever if he continues blocking people like this.
Haas said before his touchdown he was unfamiliar with a new formation and lined up in the wrong spot, forcing a timeout. He was afraid coaches would change the play, but they did not, and he appreciated them, saying, quote, "It's a testament to how they feel about me. I'm just trying to keep earning more reps."
Jackson Haas really has had a great start to the year. I mean, in that week 1 game against the Ravens, he had that great grab to put the Bills on the 1-yard line in their final drive. So really just great stuff you see from a rookie that everybody said was just going to be this blocking guy. And now he's coming in and he shows that he can do more than just block. And that's exactly what you want from a rookie. And obviously he's earning a lot of high praise. And, in training camp, I talked to Haas just a little bit about his Ivy League background. He is a degree from Yale. So, I mean, you would think that plays into it. He's got to be a pretty smart guy, and he's clearly, making the adjustments and doing what he needs to do for the Bills. And it's good to see from a rookie who, this tight end room, we've had a lot of who's going to step up, who's going to be the guy. And so far, Jackson Haas is looking like he could, step up and be one of those guys that really contribute for this team. All right, so it is now time for our roundtable segment. We've got Thad Brown, Josh Reed, and Matt Perino all out in Orchard Park today, breaking down everything you need to know ahead of this Saints game. The, as I said, 0-3 Saints coming to try to take down undefeated Bills. I don't even know if I can say that. I mean, anything can happen. Anything can happen, but the Saints are a struggling team right now, so we'll see what happens. But here's the three of them breaking down whatever you want to know, all the things you need to know ahead of this weekend's matchup.
Time now for the BKL Nightly Roundtable. I'm Thad Brown, Josh Reed, Matt Perino from Syracuse.com and the Shop Podcast stepping in for Carl Jones today. Guys, Bills and Saints. Not going to be a lot of talk about the Saints, but with this Bills team, the thing that I think stood out maybe the most on offense was the way Dalton Kincaid had more of a role, not only a role, but a big play role on a team that's kind of been hurting for big plays this year, at least in the passing game.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming into this season, I looked at this as a make or break year for Dalton Kincaid. And so far, so good. He's got a couple of touchdowns. That leads the team, second in receptions, second in yards. So he's been there. And Josh, we had a chance to hear from Josh Allen after practice, and he talked about wanting to get him involved early on in games and kind of get him rolling early on. And like I said, so far so good for the Bills tight end.
Battle scars, right? Dalton Kincaid's got a bunch of them over the last couple of years. You go back to January against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that moment that could have changed the entire fortunes of an organization. You learn a lot about a young player with how they deal with adversity. I think going back to the start of the offseason program with what everybody in this building has been saying about Dalton Kincaid and how he's attacked that adversity gave me hope for what this season could look like, and his quarterback believes in him. And I don't think you can replace that for a young player coming out here in an offense, which I think Josh has even alluded to this. This is a run-first team at this point, right? There's not a lot of pressure on the passing game to deliver week in and week out. But so far through 3 weeks, Dalton Kincaid's been the guy that's been delivering.
You talk about reducing the pressure, too. I think Kincaid's role and maybe the expectations have decreased. When he was drafted, Bills fans, as you might expect, started throwing the Travis Kelce comparison out, and no one's going to live up to that. But with the addition of Jackson Hawes and what he offers and how you take some things away from Kincaid needing to do as a tight end, he can focus more on being a weapon, not necessarily a big physical one, but taking advantage of space, having good hands. If those are the expectations and the parameters of his role, I think he's been much more comfortable doing just that so far.
Yeah, and I want to add this real quick, is Dalton Kincaid as a blocker in the run game is fine. You can get away with it if he's on the perimeter. You don't need him trying to block linebackers. That equation does not work. If you can get him outside on a nickel back or against a cornerback, he'll be more successful. And I feel like because of the addition of Jackson Hawes, and we know how good of a blocker Dawson Knox can be in the run game, I feel like this fit is much better for Dalton Kincaid, and he looks more comfortable.
Certainly in the room, I think, as a whole. All right, let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Corner number 2 was not great against the Dolphins. Look, the Dolphins have great receivers. I think they're going to make a second corner, and a lot of teams look not great. But we saw Max Hairston today seeming to ramp up and look pretty good, doing some rehab on the side. He's eligible to come off IR next week. How fast do you want or hope Hairston gets into the Bills lineup?
I think their record being 3-0 kind of lets you slow play that a little bit. Now, they'll never admit it. They're going to say, look, when he's ready, he'll play. But to me, and I think that goes with maybe even Ed Oliver, maybe even Matt Milano. You're 3-0. There's a really good chance you're going to be 4-0 after this week. There's no reason to rush these guys out. But I'm with you. I thought Max Hairston looked pretty good at practice today. In the little bit that he did.
He did, but I also didn't expect that heavy-duty brace that was on his leg, and I think that maybe tells you they don't want to put too much pressure on that knee yet. And that's the other part of the equation for me is, like, when he gets back to, like, football activity, right, how long is it going to be before he truly trusts that leg to cut off of it, to react when a receiver's trying to break away from him with a juke move or whatever? I think that is, to me, the timeline that gets a little bit extended. I'm with you. I'm not rushing him back. I think that you have plenty of depth. I think what you saw Dorian Strong, a 6th-round draft pick, do in week 1 to come out and have to start the opener against the Ravens in prime time with the whole country watching. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. And I think if you can get to a point where you have that kind of solid depth behind Trey White and a guy like Jamarcus Ingram who started before, and then you obviously have Dorian Strong, it's slow play it. And don't forget, this is a long-term play too. When you draft a guy in the first round, you want him for 26, 27, and 28, and you don't want to rush that.
Yeah, I'm going to make a 3 for 3 with the idea of not rushing him back by any means. The Dorian Strong point is great. If you don't think Trey White is living up to it, you have another option that's not named Max Hairston that has already proven he can at least be functional out there. The other part of this too is it's the Saints, and then the Patriots, and then the Falcons, and then the bye week. There's really no offense out there that is so concerning that you need to make a change at corner number 2 that's going to be, I think, a big threat to that spot. Speaking of not being a threat, Bills and Saints, the spread's up to, 85,000 or something like that. Is there any reason for concern for the Bills this week?
No. But seriously, look, that team went out to Seattle and just got it handed to them. Had to fly back to New Orleans. Now they're going to fly up to Buffalo. Meanwhile, the Bills have been sitting around since Thursday night just waiting for the Saints to show up to play them. I think this is a bad scenario for the New Orleans Saints. I think Kellen Moore, a rookie coach, they got a young quarterback. This is a bad situation for the Saints.
I had a Bills fan DM me based on a podcast we did a couple days ago, and kind of gave it to me a little bit, saying, you're not giving them any chance. Kamara could come in here and run all over the Bills. And you know what I responded? That's what Breece Hall was supposed to do a couple weeks ago. The problem here for the Saints isn't necessarily some of the weapons that they have in their offense. There's a lot of good ones. I like Chris Olave. I like Shaheed.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. He's a real downfield threat. They haven't been utilizing him in that way. Problem is the quarterback, Spencer Rattler. He's been really good with the football. He hasn't turned it over a ton early this season. That could change on the road in this stadium against this team. If you don't have good quarterback play, I don't care how much you want to be able to run the ball, you're not going to be able to stay in the game long enough to utilize that. And then also, Alvin Kamara through 3 games is having 3.7 yards per carry.
The turnover thing is one I've been thinking about, because this Bills team has averaged about 30 turnovers a year, right now on pace for 17. And you think, well, where's the big game going to come? It's going to be this one, most likely. And your point about the travel, I didn't even think about that. This is what they would call in the NBA kind of a scheduled loss. When you put the disparity in talent next to that, boy, my score just got a lot wider in terms of prediction for this week. He's Matt Perino, Josh Reed, I'm Thad Brown. Let's go back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you guys. So, I mean, I agree. I think it's going to be hard for the Saints to come in off their road game against Seattle, coming in to Buffalo and really do anything. Young quarterback. I mean, not a lot of weapons, a few on offense, but guess we'll see. We'll see this Sunday at 1 p.m. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and we will be back with some questions that you guys wanted to know. Thad Brown answers them out in Orchard Park. We'll be back with that after this. Welcome back to BKL Nightly. It is now time for our weekly segment where we dip into the mailbag. Thad Brown is out in Orchard Park right now to answer all of your pressing questions ahead of this Week 4 game against the Saints. So we will get right into it. Thad is ready to go. So from ex-user CarlCac10, how do the Bills make sure they don't repeat what made the Dolphins game a little bit closer than this user thinks it should have been?
Yeah, I think first of all, the Dolphins are just a better team than maybe their 0-3 record might indicate. Maybe not a lot better, but better. And I think they're certainly better than the Saints team simply because they have a quarterback who's not brand new. They're a team that knows the Bills a little bit better. So just the opponent decreasing, I think, will improve the situation for the Bills. Look, this Saints team's on a tough spot here, too. They just went cross-country from New Orleans to Seattle, flew back to New Orleans. Now they're doing a different cross-country trip, south to north this time, all the way up to Buffalo for their second consecutive road game. It doesn't matter. You throw out the records and the quality of teams, that's a situation where the team making that second road trip is probably not going to be at 100%. So the Bills have a lot of things going their way. This is still a Bills team that will take everything seriously. They stay even keel. They will not overlook this Saints team. I don't care what the point spread is. So I think at the end of the day, when you take in the Saints travel situation, their general lack of talent, their lesser ability at quarterback, there's a lot of reason to think this Bills game will be as easy as expected as opposed to last week, which was surprisingly close.
Now today we got a few injury updates, not many though, very short injury reports today, just ahead of this game. Obviously Ed Oliver and Matt Milano still not practicing, but Blue Sky user Todd Lewis says if that duo is close to returning, he would like to see another week rest and have them for New England. Thad, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the Bills will probably play it that way too. And although the Bills won't say anything derogatory about the Saints or, like I said, overlook them, they understand the situation. Not only because the Saints are a team that by the point spread the Bills should handle, and, by any other measure, you would think the Bills would be able to win this one pretty easily, but they're also 3-0 too. Separate of the opponent, they've built up a little leeway for themselves when it comes to going forward. Obviously, you don't want to drop this game, but, maybe if they had lost to the Ravens or if they hadn't been able to finish off that game against Miami, they view this one a little bit differently. Either way, this is a spot the Bills know they have a chance to rest guys. I don't think you'll see Milano or Ed Oliver in this game, even if they are close. This is one where I think the Bills will be very smart and play it careful with anyone who is on the border.
Now let's talk about one of the guys who has been healthy this year, Greg Rousseau. So Blue Sky user Bruce Reynolds says he would like to see Rousseau be worthy of his new contract. Now we know he signed this 4-year extension this offseason, $80 million, 54, I believe, guaranteed. Thad, do you believe Rousseau has proved himself worthy of this contract? And if not, what do you want to see from him moving forward to prove that he is worthy of this $80 million deal he inked this offseason?
I think that he was worth the contract and has proved that by what he had done before he signed it. The prior 4 years here, every year getting better, becoming a very respectable, maybe not dominant, but high-level edge rusher. I will say the first 3 games this year have been surprisingly quiet from Rousseau. Now, some of that is this game against Miami, the spot where it's really hard to get pressure from the edge because the quarterback gets the ball out so quickly. That said, I don't think Rousseau has played at the same level or a level that he would be satisfied with. So he's certainly a guy that I'm watching to see if we get the player who we've seen the last couple years. The thing about Greg Rousseau is that if there's anyone on this defensive line, when you talk about game after game after game, regular season playoffs, whatever, if there's anyone that I think the Bills can depend on to do what he does most often, it has been Greg Rousseau. So to me, the fact that he hasn't been at that level so far this year makes it all the more surprising. But to answer the question, I think we'll see the old Greg Rousseau very, very soon, even if I am keeping an eye open to make sure that it's happening.
Yeah, we certainly talked about him a lot last year. And like you said, a little bit of a quieter season so far, but there definitely, if there is a guy you have the potential and see that vision in, it definitely is Greg Rousseau for me as well. All right, well, that is going to wrap up this week's weekly mailbag segment. Thank you, Thad. We'll see you next time. All right, as usual, if you want Thad to answer any question you have before each Bills game each week. Oh my gosh, what day is it? Wednesday? Yep, here we go. You can head over to Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at ThadBrown7. Each week he'll make a post. You can comment under there. Also on Blue Sky, I know on Facebook. So any social media, find Thad, find News 8, and you'll find it. And see if Thad will answer your questions or whatever you want to know ahead of each week's game. All right, we got one more thing to get to. So in this past Miami game on Thursday, a lot of people were concerned. I don't know if concerned is the right word, but just aware of the lack of deep balls that Josh Allen threw down the field. It seemed like, at least to me, the offense was kind of inching their way down the field, utilizing their run game a lot, utilizing James Cook a lot. And there weren't any, flashy go up 40 yards and Keon Coleman comes down with an amazing grab. None of that really happened in this Miami game. And Josh Allen attempted one pass that was over 10 yards and did not complete it. So no passes over 10 yards. So a lot of people were concerned. A lot of people were kind of saying, this isn't like Josh Allen. I know a few years ago against Miami, I believe maybe 2020, he had a lot of deep passes against Miami, and that really stood out. So, he talked today about just he's aware that fans did not see that from him. But, I think for him, he's more so focused on the outcome of the game. And the outcome of the game is that they won, whether or not it was a pretty win or what Bills fans quote unquote wanted, they came out on top.
People are mad at we're not pushing the ball downfield, and it's just like we're winning football games and we're doing what's asked us. We're taking what's there for us. Teams want to play these split safety coverages and keep everything in front of us, but completions and letting guys like 10 with the ball in his hand make a play and go score. Same thing with 86, and just trying to again, we're just trying to win football games, whatever that may be. And sometimes it's not going to be that easy. It's not going to be, hey, we need to check it. Sometimes we're going to have to take some chances down the field. And when those opportunities come up, we're going to have to make them. But until then, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing.
I'm sure we'll see some deep passes from the Bills this weekend. I think the Saints, they have some offensive weapons. Their defense and their secondary seems to be where they struggle. So I'm sure we will see a few deep passes from Josh Allen, and I'm sure fans will be very pleased with how that one goes. But you never know. You never know. We'll see if the Saints come in and kind of stand on business here at Highmark Stadium this Sunday at 1 p.m. All right, well, that is going to do it for this week's BKL Nightly. I hope you enjoyed. We'll be back here tomorrow with our final BKL Nightly of the week. We'll give you predictions, talk the final things, wrap everything up before this Saints game. But for now, I'm Rachel Liebert, and for Thad Brown, for Matt Perino, for Josh Reed, we will see you next time.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.